Hello from a thunderstorm.
Welcome to...
Very moody.
Yeah, it's a dark and stormy night here at the Hugo Girl Podcast. Speaking of that, welcome to the Hugo Girl Podcast. I'm Lori.
I'm Haley.
I'm Amy.
And this month we read The Snow Queen by Joan D. Vinge.
Yes,
It was published in 1980, won the Hugo for Best Novel in 1981, and was also nominated that same year for a Nebula. Cool. So should we... I've never done this podcast before. Now do we do housekeeping?
So we have a correction corner.
Yes, correction corner, yeah.
From Juan. Juan listened to our The Moon is a Harsh Mistress episode, and he wrote to tell us that we had said that Heinlein had the most Hugo Awards, and he said if you don't count retros, Lois McMaster Bujold has as many as Heinlein.
Oh.
I would not have guessed that.
When I did say that, I was not counting retros, but I'm glad that he pointed that out because go Lois.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was a big thunder.
And then I wanted to say a couple of other things since I thought I was DM.
Yeah, please do.
So a fun trivia fact about the Snow Queen is that our friend Seth, creator and host of the podcast Hugo's There, maybe you've heard of it, just finished reading all of the Hugo winners for Best Novel, and the Snow Queen was the subject of his final episode. So you should go listen to that.
Yes.
And I say final to mean the final episode of Hugo's There 1.0 because he is going to continue his podcast, probably reading other award winners and classics. I've already signed Haley up for the Moby Dick episode.
Yeah.
But the Snow Queen concluded his many years long run of reading the Hugo winners. So congratulations to him on a job well done.
He should do Nebula Dude.
Nebula Nerds?
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it has to be a good pun, but we did
I
our
think it's gonna be...
April Fool's episode a few years ago. Nebula bitch, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
Forgot about that.
I think it's going to be Hugo's There 2.0.
That makes sense.
But who knows? Who knows what he's going to do? And then who recommended this book? Nobody. But when we posted to Twitter that we were reading it, Brent from the Hugo Nuts podcast did reply, "Oh no, the Snow Queen."
Aww.
Do we know why he was so upset?
He wasn't so upset. I think he didn't love it, but no, I don't know. I kept reading it, waiting to be like, "Oh no." And
yeah, same. This was...
I could see why opinions would differ. Yeah.
every time I got way behind and I needed to pick it up and read, Kevin would go, "Oh no, Snow Queen." It just sort of became part of our household lexicon.
It's definitely not a book that if you get behind and you need to catch up, it's not a book that's very conducive to that because there's a lot of words.
Yes. Yep. All right. I will turn it back over to Haley, our actual DM.
Woohoo! The battle of the 5 DMs. We're gonna see.
All right, it's the perfect storm of DM.
This is probably one of the harder books to summarize plot-wise. There is a lot that happens to it. There are many pages, but here is my shot. The planet Tiamat is close to a black hole that affects its connection to the hegemony, a collection of colonized planets linked in federation. Every 150 years, the summers, the seaside, Luddite, oppressed folk rule the planet. Then the winters take up their role. They're city folk, haughty and tech-obsessed. When the winters rule, the wormhole opens and visitors from other planets can come hang. When the book opens, the winters are facing the end of their 150-year-long rule, and the Snow Queen, Aryan Road, who's been kept preternaturally young thanks to serum derived from Mers, sentient beings that swim in Tiamat's oceans. It's brutal, the harvesting of it. She doesn't want to give up her rule, so she has placed clones of herself on the planet. The clone that survives is none other than Moon Dawn Treader, who's a summer who was in love with her cousin, Sparks Dawn Treader. They break up when Moon goes off to become a Sibyl, a sort of human Google monk outcast. Despondent, Sparks journeys to the city Carbuncle to get away from his memories, and she gets kidnapped off-world where time dilation makes her gone for 5 years. While gone, she discovers truths about her world and the nature of the hegemony. Spark ends up becoming the Snow Queen's lover/henchman because of her resemblance to Moon, responsible for the brutal harvest of Mers that will keep them both young. Together, with the help of some nice hegemony cops, they uncover the Mer plot, foil Aryan Road's plan to kill the Summers with the plague, and install Moon as her successor. Then a lot happens in the end. Moon wins the Summer Queen title after a 1-mile run, like the presidential fitness test. She reveals the true nature of the Sibyls for humans to be able to answer questions from a secret bank of knowledge under Tiamat that's telepathically communicated, enabling humans to survive and spread out against the galaxy. The cousin lovers are reunited and rule together. The end.
Good job.
Yeah,
That was way better than mine.
There is a lot. All right, let us get going on to goodies from Goodreads. I'll kick us off. Gwiz gives it 1 star. The start of this book and series was not unique, and when the boy was picked up off the street to go gamble his coin away, I said enough. So. What y'all got?
I have a 4-star review from Joel, and Joel says, okay, I'm going to describe a scene to you, and I want you to then tell me which famous science fiction property it comes from. Ready? So this is the climax of the middle part of the story. The hero finally meets up with the primary antagonist. They go head-to-head in a duel on a narrow bridge over a vast abyss. Midway through, our hero learns a stunning piece of news regarding a parental figure, and is then tempted to join the villain in an evil scheme to rule the galaxy. Haha, yeah, I did make it pretty easy. Of course I am talking about Joan D. Vinge's The Snow Queen. Amy.
Am I allowed 2 short ones?
Yeah,
Sure.
of course.
Oh,
I was
great.
short, so.
Okay. So Jenny on necromancyneverpays.wordpress.com says, the thesis of my position paper is that this was too many pages to be.
I read that review too. It was good.
And it's true. It's so long. And then Drowning Mermaid says, all the sex in this book is stupid, with the possible exception of Moon and Sparks just doing what cousins do in the backwoods.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. I searched high and low for bad reviews of this book or / funny ones, and there's not a ton. It's generally got pretty positive reviews, which is nice.
Well, if you dive right into the 2 stars, that's different.
That's true.
It's a different place to be.
But even those, a lot of them were just like, this isn't for me, which is always the sign of a good book. So
I like this book, which is no surprise because I like Star Wars and I like Dune.
true.
And this book is both of those things.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you come off of The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, we were just spoiled. There was, so much good stuff.
Yeah, a nice plot, some women in charge of things, women's rights and women's wrongs.
All right, let's get into general discussion. I want to kick this off with, so there's lots of comparisons to Star Wars to Dune, but this really gave me such a memory called Empire vibes. Did y'all get that?
Oh,
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. And I think it kind of did it almost a little bit better. No shade at all to our queen, Arcady Martine. But I felt like I understood the world more. And I don't know, I guess because we got to go there and then come back, it was cool. So I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, I think the machinations on Tiamat were less complicated in a way than what was going on in
Memory Called Empire.
Thank you. I've been sick. Everybody has to forgive me. Yeah, I think it was, it was a little less complicated. It's very simple. It's like we have this thing. All the people want this thing. How do we then all make money, basically? And then a side hustle of I want to be in charge forever. How do I make that happen?
And it's a retelling of a popular fairy tale, The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen. And it seems that upon researching that, retellings of that fairy tale are very popular across a wide spectrum of media. There were several familiar names in the SFF genre. There are retellings by Mercedes Lackey, T. Kingfisher, Jim Hines, and others. And there are even Snow Queen-inspired episodes of Sailor Moon and A Different World.
Which is funny because I was not familiar with it 1%.
Me neither.
Same. And reading up on it was really interesting after reading the book. It was really interesting what she pulled from there and what she it made a lot more sense why Moon was so devoted to Sparks because she was basically fleshing out a framing story.
Yeah, all the major beats were there though, so it was really interesting.
And I liked how she took, because in the Snow Queen fairy tale, the boy turns sort of, he turns icy because icy and cold and evil because he gets literal shards of ice in his eyes and heart. And I liked her play on that with the metaphor of sort of greed and self-hate and that sort of thing. It was, and rejection, I really thought that was a thoughtful way to do that.
Yeah. I read Joe Walton's review, and
Yeah,
I
she hated it.
I didn't read it. I forgot
for
to
a
look
woman that
for
read
hers.
Citeen 40 times, she had
And
no time
also-
for this book.
Here's why she doesn't like this book. Citeen is a more boring ripoff of this book.
I know, but
I agree.
Yeah, like I was flabbergasted when she was like, I just can't find anything. I don't know.
That
And I
is
was
so
like,
funny.
It's got so much more world building than Citeen.
She's so devoted to Citeen that she can't see that the Snow Queen is the better book.
She is who wrote Citeen again? I forget.
CJ Cherry.
CJ Sherry.
She is CJ Cherry's Starbucks. She's just devoted.
So this actually underscores my running theme with this book. I'm actually renaming this book The Sunk Cost Fallacy, because
Aw.
basically everybody's arc in this book is based on the premise that they've put too much into it and they can't let it go. And I feel like that's how Joe Walton. Joe Walton's too devoted to Citeen. She's put too much effort into it. She's read it too many times. She can't let it go and do Snow Queen. Sunk cost fallacy, y'all.
So
It's
funny
everywhere.
Because when I was reading this, I was flabbergasted at the similarities between this and Citeen. And of course, this came first and this did it better. And in case any of the listeners at home are wondering, I've got a little list.
Yay.
So, well, first of all, Snow Queen, Citeen, it rhymes, okay? And then we have Queen Arianrhod, and her name is spelled Arienrhod. And then in Citeen, the big bad HBIC is Ariane Emery, and they're both Ari,
Oh.
A-R-I. And both Aris are obsessed with exerting sexual and social control over a teen boy. A side note that I have here is that women can be gross too. And the difference that I've seen over and over again is that men write old men who are in relationships with young women, Heinlein, and women write old women who look like young women with young men. And
Yes.
another popular example is Twilight. Wait a minute. Are there old women and young men? No. But they
No.
write.
Well, he's an old man.
No, he's
He
an
looks
old
young.
man with a young woman, but he looks like a teenager. So yeah, like women do the same thing, but they make the older person somehow magically look like they're 17. And that's supposed to make it less gross that they're involved with somebody who's 17. And then along the lines of women can be gross too. Arianrhod ached to have that slender, supple body beside her on the bed. Oh no. So both
next to that, I wrote the Mary Kay Letourneau of it all.
Oh no.
Oh, I have another for your list. There's also mention of tape in this, taking
Yes,
tape.
that's
So
on my
much
list
tape.
too. They take tape.
Oh, good.
And then both Aris try to clone themselves, thinking that they can extend their power forever by doing that. But I think that this book does a much better job of calling that the foolishness that it is, because Moon just rejects that outright. Moon is not like, am I Arianrhod? Whereas like baby Ari in Citeen is like, maybe I am her. Maybe I am going to grow up like her. And I guess maybe the difference is that she knew it at a younger age, so she was worrying about it. But I think that this book does a better job of being like, no, making a clone is not a copy of a person and their personality and their identity. But yeah, anyway, these books are super similar, except that one of them was really boring and I didn't like it.
And even
Citeen.
longer, too.
And even longer. God, yeah, remember that book was like 600 or 700 pages.
Yeah, that one. I felt like more happened in this one. Or no, more happened in that one because there's more pages. But this one, I felt like I got to a point that I thought was the end and there were still 100 pages. So,
Yeah, more happened, but a lot of that more was children's birthday parties.
yeah, oh, that's true. So the incest part, when you texted us when you started reading it and you were like, prepare yourself for more incest, it's completely unimportant to the plot. Why couldn't they have just been two lovers? The incest thing makes no sense to me. I can't understand why she did
Well,
it.
you know what just dawned on me? It isn't real incest because
No, they're not related. That's what I was
she's
about
not
to say.
biologically related. That just crossed my mind.
Oh, wait, how? I'm
Yeah.
confused.
Because she's a clone of Arianrhod.
Oh, that's right. But she was still birthed from...
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
I
that's
actually,
true, that's
I don't
true.
really think that like genetics are what make incest disturbing. It's like,
familial.
it's
yeah.
that you were raised in the same household with the same grandma.
Yeah, but like even apart from the technicalities, like I wonder why she's like the cousin lovers. Like why? You didn't have to.
I guess that's how they knew each other, but they could have been neighbors.
Yeah, I mean
I don't know.
there's a bunch of boats. They could have just been like sailing friends. I don't know.
Well, you know who else are related and in love, but not nearly as bad? Luke and Leia.
That's true.
I mean, Dawn Treader, Skywalker. Come on.
Yeah, Dawn
Yeah, but at least once they found out they were a brother and sister, they let that go.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I mean, Moon
They
and
were like,
Sparks
"Oh, no,
knew
a
from the
kiss."
jump.
Speaking of the summer people, I love the idea of these like rural coastal. They cook low country boils. Probably, I was a big fan of the summers myself. They had claw crab sails. That was pretty cool. So
It sounds nice.
I couldn't picture what that was. A crab claw sail. Is that a real thing, or is that something made up in the book?
you just have but to Google it. Claw.
But I didn't.
It is a fore and aft triangular sail with spars along upper and lower edges. So it's just a different shape. It doesn't even really look like a.
Okay, now I
claw.
see it. Now I understand.
Cool.
Yeah, I liked them too. I'm a sucker for any. I like any world building that. I mean, let's take a beat for her world building because I thought it was really good. We kind of mentioned it earlier, but I really like any society that has an ancient society and they have their stuff but don't know how to use it. Like that's one of my favorite things in science fiction, and I thought it was really interesting the way she handled that here. Like I couldn't tell if everybody in the hegemony, they clearly don't know what Sybils are really, because I think we're supposed to think that Moon only knows what Sybils are really. But they knew enough to know that they didn't want the people on Tiamat to know what the old empire left behind, kind of. And that whole dynamic was really interesting to me. Like some people know enough to be dangerous, but don't want these other people to know because they want to, exploit them. And then, but let me ask you guys this. So Moon is a Sybil, and Sybils are able to plug into the mainframe using their blood. And Moon finds out that the mainframe is underneath Carbuncle, which is the funniest name for a town of all time. How does she find that out?
She learns it from Elsiever's boyfriend's brother when she goes to Thieves Market.
He tells her that the mainframe is under Carbuncle?
No, he explains everything about it though, and I think she figures it out because the Murs they can be immortal, so like they're always going to be guarding it, right?
Yeah.
But doesn't she? I thought she realized it while she was on the bridge and it started calling to her. And then she realized she could control the wind.
Oh, that's right. Like, she heard
I'm
the
your friend,
siren
don't blow
song.
me away.
That's right.
That's right.
Maybe it was a bit of both. Because she did know that the Murs were protecting it.
Yeah.
But we don't know why it's there yet, right?
It's because the Murs live a long time and they can like...
Right, but we don't know why they left it there of all places. Like the old empire, why they put it there.
I don't know. I don't think we know why
we don't get into that.
They chose that location.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, they made the Murs. They made the whole thing, so.
Maybe because it was at the bottom of a chasm and the Murs were protecting it. Maybe that's why they put it there. I don't know. It had a good chasm and a good watery world.
I was waiting for BK, our young policeman,
BZ,
who reads the old fantasies. I was really waiting for like the books he read to turn out to be like instruction books.
Oh, that would have been a fun twist.
But no.
Yeah, there's a big chunk of this book follows Jerusha, who's like the commander cop. And in my head, she's Sandra Bullock in Demolition Man. And she is just... She's got imposter syndrome. She's put upon. She's got mean male coworkers that resent her being a woman. And it was a little bit sad to read some of it.
And it rang true, though. Like we watched her go through a real time like battle between imposter syndrome and I'm just as good as a man. And it's who amongst us doesn't have that battle from time to time?
And she has to contend with the fact that while she is good enough to be the commander of police, she did not get the job because of her merit.
Yep.
So it's like she deserves it, but she got it for the wrong reason, and that's got to feel weird.
It's funny because we talk a lot about how when some men write science fiction, they can't imagine a world, without, dumb women, basically. But even Joan was like, women are still going to have a hard time in the workplace in the future in a different planet.
I mean, I guess if all these societies are begotten from the one we have now, then yeah.
Yeah. There's that quote, her job had been her life, and now her whole life had become hell. Poor Jerusha.
Well, and the men act like she's taken something from them by getting the promotion, which is exactly how people will act and have acted. Like you're taking something away from me simply by getting something that you've worked really hard for.
Yeah. All right. Lots of people in Goodreads said that they could not forgive Starbuck. He's an irredeemable character. After all he's done, he was responsible for personally slaughtering all of the Murs that helped provide this youth serum. Do y'all think he is irredeemable?
Which Starbuck are we talking about? Sparks?
Sparks, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess both technically, but
so
Sparks.
This is definitely one of my biggest problems with this book. Like, there's no ramifications for anything he does in this book. Nothing. And he does some bad stuff. And it just bugs me. Like, I know that the point is supposed to be that nobody is irredeemable and everybody has a little bad and a little good and everybody's complicated and da-da-da-da-da. But I just don't see how nothing happens to him for any of this. We're just supposed to be like, well, he only did that because the Snow Queen had him in her clutches, and we're supposed to just let it go. But I don't know if you could just that easily separate someone from that many deeds that are bad.
I totally agree with you.
Apart from the Mur slaughter, what else did he do, though?
I mean, he was running around. Well, he was going to help the Snow Queen poison an entire populace.
Yeah. True.
I mean, that didn't end up happening. I mean, he was standing there when Silky got murdered. I mean, I think the implication is definitely that he was running around and doing the Queen's dirty work, even if we don't see all of it.
That's true.
So I don't know if I buy it. And I think that part of the problem is that we're supposed to, the Snow Queen fairy tale is like the girl finds the boy and sort of thaws his icy heart and brings him back, which I think is, that's the beat that we're going for in the book. But in the fairy tale, the boy did not murder a bunch of were-seals or whatever.
Yeah, he was just ill-tempered.
Right. And so I can't see, like,
I'm right there
I
with
just
you.
didn't, I couldn't follow her there.
As a counterpoint, do you think Darth Vader was redeemed at the end of Return of the Jedi?
I mean, I don't think people are irredeemable, but I think that there are, even if you're redeemable, there still should be ramifications for your actions.
Yeah, no consequences at all. Like, he just gets to go back and have his cousin wife and be her consort and have a nice fluffy life. And he did genocide to these Murs. So I wasn't okay. I'm okay with him being redeemed, but like, redeemed isn't just like, I W redeemed, It's like when Michael Scott goes, I declare bankruptcy. And it's like, that's not all you have to do. There's more to it than that.
And I didn't ever really get the impression that, I mean, he was beating himself up a lot, I guess, but he didn't ever actually like make amends of any kind.
Right,
or like,
right, yeah.
He just sort of moped around. And I don't know if that's enough.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Definitely was not enough to me for mass slaughter of an intelligent species, which he doesn't know that they're intelligent. Okay, well, they were. So you need to make up for that, or like do something.
Yeah, and maybe something happened off screen, but we didn't get to see any of it. It just kind of wrapped up nicely.
In this many pages, I feel like
she could have.
Especially, the end of the book. I did really like this book, but I feel like the end of it fell kind of flat. In the sense that it took too long to resolve. Like, there was just so much thinking about the way things are and they could be. Like, Jerusha's denouement. It just takes forever of her, like, thinking through things and reflecting on things. And maybe some of those pages would have been better spent telling us, like, why it's okay that Sparks did not get chucked into the sea with Arian Road. Because I really was expecting him to, and I would have been fine with it. So it felt everything was wrapped up a little too neatly and happily for me.
Like, I would have liked him a lot more if at the end of the book he was like, you know what? I did a lot of things. It's irredeemable. I'm going down with the ship. And it would have been very sad, but a better ending to me.
I liked the other Starbucks little trick, and he was willing just to go die.
Yeah,
with his
I did
twin.
too.
Yeah,
I did like that. Yeah,
I did also like that. But maybe Sparks should have just been like, you know what? I'm going to jump.
Yeah, or at least have like one monologue of like, man, shit's been real. Man, this sucks. I'm sorry.
You could even leave it open for a sequel, which I'm not asking for, Joan. I'm not asking for a sequel.
But there is.
There are many sequels,
Oh,
Lori.
that's right.
Yeah.
There are.
There's a Summer Queen tangled up in blue.
Yeah.
And then there's also a shorter one, which the name is escaping me, but there's
I
fourth one.
forgot.
Yeah.
So I feel like if he maybe at the end had said something about like, I have to leave Carbuncle and go on a journey to like make amends to the Murs. I have to go see them and see how I can make amends.
Yeah,
2 sentences
something
saying
like
that.
that.
He's not going to just put his feet up in the castle and be the queen's, I guess not side piece, main piece.
Consort?
Again. Consort,
is the word you're looking for. Yeah.
Or maybe they're going to get married. They are pledged, as she told us 7,000 times. They are pledged. Yeah. So if he was just like, I can't do this easy life. I have to go make amends.
Her role is going to be a lot different, I think, too. I think she's going to shake some things up. So maybe there'll be something good.
I am interested in reading The Summer Queen, so I'll get back to you if there's any further information. If he had even just said, I'm sorry. I don't know if he ever said that. Did he say that?
I don't think so. He was more like, I'm a bad person, and then she comforts him about how he's been a bad person.
And then has sex with him. Yeah.
She's only been gone 2 months because of time dilation, and he's had like 5 years of genocide and horrible darkness in his life.
I mean, I guess that's actually a good point. Like, he has a lot more time under his belt of being under the influence, I guess. And, to her, it's been 2 months. So I guess that is actually a good point. Like, it's not, she didn't hang on to this flame for years and years and years. To her, it's only been a couple weeks.
So he gets drawn in with Aryan Road because, she looks just like his cousin lover. Would y'all fall for somebody who looks just like somebody you love, but has a very different personality? I think it'd be pretty hard.
Yeah, especially if you had lost that person.
Yeah.
Not like you just broke up. Like, for him, what's her name? Moon, she's like left the planet, never to return.
Yeah, he thinks she's gone forever, but like they both just kind of like take solace in each other.
Yeah, and I think that, he's comforted somewhat, I guess, by the fact that she seems to be mourning Moon too. And so, yeah, it's sort of a misery loves company kind of situation, I think. And she looks enough like her that it's like, I could see why he gave in, I guess. But also, I think there's something to the fact that Moon is like, I don't know, the only woman he ever met.
So, that's true. Name a woman.
I think that probably factors into his psyche.
Moon Dawn Treader. I think that this is another example of why this works better for me than Satine, because you have this huge age imbalance and power imbalance between Aryan Road and Sparks. But at the same time, even though this is an exploitative relationship, there is love there. Yeah. I think she does love him, and he does love her in some kind of way. And it's, probably comes from their loss of Moon. But I think that makes it a more complicated relationship. And not to keep comparing it to Satine, but it was impossible for me to not do that while I was reading it. So I'm probably going to keep doing it while we're talking.
And but, it didn't seem like there was sexual assault either, which is nice. So...
No, unless you consider that like he was 17 and she's 150, so there's definitely a bit of an issue there. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right. He was not coerced or drugged or threatened like what happened in Satine. But I do think it makes their relationship is more complicated than just like she's a baddie with a much younger boyfriend who she's manipulating, because I do think she actually does love him and he loves her in some kind of way. And I like that she did that nobody is like, with the exception maybe of original Starbuck, nobody seems like purely evil. Like the Snow Queen is definitely a baddie.
Yeah.
But she's not purely evil. She has some motivations trying to care for this planet and take care of people to a certain degree, although her methods are not okay. And she does actually love him. And she's not bad at her version of statecraft. So I think she's made some interesting and complex characters.
I was going to say that even the original Starbuck ends up having sort of glimmers of humanity, because, in the end, he sort of helps connect to his own ends, of course, but he helps connect Sparks back up with his dad, and he sort of does the right thing in a couple situations, like for maybe cloudy motivations, but, he does have some moments of, I don't know, I wouldn't say goodness, but not pure evil.
Yeah, for sure.
And actually, I thought one of the most successful things she did in this book was actually when the Snow Queen was sort of falling in love with Sparks. like describing what was going on in her mind when that was happening was really interesting. I thought that was kind of lovely. It was sort of waking back up this little part of herself, this warm part of herself that she hadn't had in a long time, which makes sense because she's 150 years old, and she's been in absolute power for that, ish for that amount of time. Anyway, I thought she did that really well.
Speaking of 150-year-old high fantasy monarchs, this movie reminds me a lot of one of our favorites, Jupiter Ascending, when they're harvesting the serum from a planet.
Right there in my notes. They're harvesting the mers so that they can live forever. But then also, it's literally called the water of life, and they treat it like spice.
The spice of life. But also, they ingest it with a little spray, kind of like Banaka, I'm guessing. So even though this book is 1,000,000 pages long, I enjoyed it immensely because she knows how to write. Like, let me read you just a sentence that I randomly highlighted. It's talking about Sparks, living with his dark world with his queen. Somehow, without his being aware of it, time had coated his awe with a rind of disillusionment, and the wine of wonder had turned to vinegar. Like, she's just a good writer.
Yeah, she really is. I really enjoyed the writing. But there's one sentence that I took down because I was like, okay, Joan, it's time to calm down. She said her face was palely expressionless. Palely?
Yeah, no.
Pale can't be an adverb. You could say her face was pale and expressionless. So sometimes I feel like she went a little too hard, but yeah, for the most part, I just thought this was so pleasurable to read.
I mean, our girl does love an adverb.
Yes.
She also really loves a pink freckle, and I couldn't decide if that was something she thought existed on actual humans, because it does not, or if it was an alien thing.
Well, what do you mean?
I don't remember pink freckles. Yeah.
I have red, tiny. Maybe I shouldn't tell this.
BK has these pink freckles that turn red when he's embarrassed, or they go pale if other things happen. Like, his freckles do a lot. It's fucking, it kept bugging me.
That's cool.
I didn't know.
So I didn't know. I was like, am I the only one?
I didn't really notice that.
I think I would chalk that up to him being some sort of alien. Like, maybe these aren't quite humans. Yeah. Maybe they're a little bit different. She talks about people's physical descriptions, and it's unclear what color or race people are, which is kind of nice. It's just, you think about it in your head, like, unless she objectively describes like a very pale face. But
there are some people she describes also as being very dark and having there was like at least one person had afro type hair and that sort of thing, which I thought was good. And I think that cannot pronounce his name, but our friend who had the plantation of sea hair.
Oh, Anganette.
Yes. He read as Asian in some way, or something like that. So I think she did a pretty good job of making it sort of not white, not a white. I'm so happy
world. That they included the pronunciation at the front of the book. It was very helpful.
So that was the end of my book.
Oh, interesting.
It was after the last page, and I was like, "Come on!"
It should always be the first page.
I could really have used this.
In the ebook, there was a page of pronunciation, and then right after that, there was a link to a glossary in the very beginning, and I was like, "Yes, ma'am, that's what we need."
That's nice.
Nice, yeah.
The one thing I didn't like about her writing was the exposition dumps. Like, she'll sort of go along, and then at some point, in some situations, you'll just get a dump of rehash of what's happened, or you'll get a dump of information in some really awkward way about what's gonna happen. Like, that was the one thing about her writing that I didn't love. It was
I had to do some skimming sometimes,
especially the recaps of what happened. Like, people would tell each other all the things that just happened to them, or they would recap for someone who wasn't there all the things that we just read happened to someone else. I guess it makes sense because she's trying to make it plausible that they know what's going on, but it was
I didn't notice that at all.
That's funny. I could not stop noticing it.
I think I like it, and really dense, long sci-fi books. I'm like, yes, please remind me, because I actually read this book one full time, and then yesterday when we had extra time, I read another 200 pages again, and it really helped. So there's just so much that happens.
No, I don't mind a little hand holding, but to me, it was too much. Obviously, I'm in the minority here, so that's fine. But it reminded me of when Giles talks on Buffy. He just gives you a lot of information.
Or like any Stephen King book is like, and then this guy was born in 1926 and he likes dominoes.
Or like Giles would just stand there and tell you the entire history of this one demon so that they can then go off and fight it. It sort of reminded me of that. I don't know.
Well, I think that this book has solved a long-term mystery. about where Yoda is from.
I know!
He's from
a
Tiamat?
Karamogi!
Yoda is very clearly Karamogi.
Oh, yeah, the talking, yeah.
When
that
they
was,
speak the Sandi language, I wrote down one of the passages that made me go, oh, this is where Yoda is from.
You're-
So here it is. At the moment, the physicist is him consulting. Let me comfortable you make until he's through.
it was so hard to read.
It was so hard to read. And even trying to hear it in Yoda's voice did not really help me that much. I was like, oh my God, is the rest of the book going to be like this? And then when BZ was like, don't speak Sandi to me. I don't deserve to hear it. I was like, yes, thank you. Please don't.
Yeah.
speak Sandi to me.
It tripped me up at first, but then as it went along, it started sounding kind of sing-songy to me, and I kind of liked it.
It's structurally kind of like German. Like sometimes the second verb would be
That's
the last
exactly what I
word.
thought. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I thought. Yeah.
Because I actually saw a TikTok the other day that was like German as told in English words, and it's like I to the store have gone. You know, like just like
Yeah,
very.
the verb's always at the end. You got to wait to the end of the sentence to find out what's going on.
I know it's
Or
hard. So
yell at us if we deserve it.
No, I took German very briefly in college, and that's exactly what it felt like when I was learning it. It was like, it's like subject, verb.
yeah.
Okay, next Star Wars question.
Yes.
Is Silky a little bit of a Jar Jar?
Oh, I thought he was a little bit of a Admiral Akbar.
I had trouble picturing what he looked like. Same with the Murs, and I think that would have helped with my love of them more.
I imagine Murs as fuzzy manatees, and I imagine Silky as the creature from The Shape of Water, but like with goopy skin, like a
tentacles.
salamander or something, like frog skin with like frog skin.
Like also tentacles.
Silky was kind of a manatee to me, and the Murs were like, like otters.
Yeah, the Murs had long necks, so I was picturing them with like, they had brindle skin, so they were like boxer dogs, but with really long necks and flippers. And then Silky was like Admiral Akbar, but with extra tentacles.
It's hard because Silky sounds like he should be like a Muppet or something. So I struggled with him.
Silky.
The Murs had long necks?
Well, they said, they kept talking about how they sinuous necks. Maybe I'm misreading what sinuous
I'm so
means.
bad at imagining things.
Oh, I don't know. Listen, do not take my word for it.
I just made them manatees because that's like what I know as an intelligent, vulnerable, friendly species in the water.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like their temperament is very manatee.
Yeah.
And like it's otter like too, because that when the one saves Moon from the sea, she like flips over and carries her around on her belly like a little baby cub, and that's what otters do. So that makes sense
I think that's
too.
why I did it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
There's a bit of dolphin in there too. Like with the rescuing people in the water.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, Carbuncle is just a ball. I can't decide what that town looks like. I understand that it has like one spiral street that goes up.
It's like a city though, a big city, I think.
I know, but I have such a hard time picturing things that I just pictured it as one big ball. Like I could not form a mental image of that city. And it wasn't her fault. I blame myself.
Yeah, I had a hard time picturing the actress that would play Moon / Aryan Road because she has to be young, and I was like, I don't know very many young actresses. So I was like, is it Florence Pugh? I don't know.
It's the girl from The Witcher. Have y'all seen The Witcher?
No, I don't know
Siri.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me it's just Siri from The Witcher. That's what she looked like in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like her personality should have been like Cate Blanchett or something, but she had to be like 17 in the face, so it was hard.
Well, Aryan Road, yeah, definitely Cate Blanchett.
Moon to me was more like Jennifer Lawrence from Winter's Bone.
Yeah,
I
that
never
makes
saw
sense.
that.
It's bleak. Pretty good.
I've got some more Dune if you want it.
Sure, what you got?
Okay. So the Sybils are kind of giving Bene Gesserit.
Oh yeah, and Jedi.
Yes, I had that
Definitely
there. Echoes
Jedi.
of Jedi and echoes of Bene Gesserit. I think more Bene Gesserit for me than Jedi because it was deliberate. Whereas Jedi, we sort of don't know, right? They just they have, they can manipulate the Force or they can't. But with the Bene Gesserit, and it seems like with the Sybils, this was a deliberate thing to carry particular knowledge, engage in some degree of manipulation, and then it's kind of become something religious.
And there's midichlorians too. There's like little things in your blood.
There are midichlorians.
I didn't see the Sybils as being manipulative. Where'd you get
Well,
that?
I think it was something to do with once we found out about the MERS and the storage of information to like protect a particular type of information and guard it. Like I think there's some manipulation going on there.
They were created so that in case society fails, people would have access to the knowledge it would take to rebuild society. So,
And who decides what knowledge, Like someone made
all we're
choices
told
about-
is it's all of it.
I assumed it was like somebody downloaded Wikipedia, like in Station 11.
That's how I pictured it too.
Yeah. Be like, how do you make a risotto? Quick input.
Imagine how it's like having a Janet. She's kind of a Janet.
Yeah.
She is kind of a Janet.
Not a robot.
Not a robot, not a girl. A Sibyl's infection is a man-made disease, a biotechnical construct so sophisticated that we've barely begun to unravel its subtleties. It creates or perhaps implants certain restructurings in the brain tissue that make a Sibyl receptive to a faster-than-light communication. So are they Ansibles?
Yeah, they're human ansibles with a link to like Wikipedia under Tiamat.
That's great. I love that. It's a
Yeah,
Janet with
I
an
think
Ansible.
that's great.
What do they say? No further analysis.
No further analysis.
And then the poor summer yokels are like, I don't know, must be a witch.
Yep. Let's see. One interesting thing. She used the term. I made a joke about this once, maybe not with y'all, but so everyone knows of nooks and crannies. She uses just cranny 3
thought about
times
you.
in this book.
That
So
happened in another
weird.
one of our books, and you were like, you can't just say cranny. What about the nooks? I can't remember which one it was, but I immediately thought about you when she said
know.
cranny.
She just had 3 times.
I didn't even notice that. You've got cranny vision.
I do. I just focus it on a cranny because it's such a weird word.
I really liked the word Mary begot. I thought that was a
when
great word.
You got pregnant at the festival, Mary begot.
Yeah, I loved that. It's a nice way to describe someone without giving them any like stigma. Like there's no impression that there were stigma on this one.
They had a great night, and then there was a baby.
Yeah.
A Mary begot.
Mary begot.
A one night stander? No, Mary begot.
I love it.
So I have another comparison.
What you got?
Okay.
Don't worry. It's a new one. Sparks is just Ken.
He is just Ken.
He's nothing
Oh, he is just Ken.
without his relationship to Moon. Moon is everything. Sparks is just Ken.
His job is beach at first. Then his job is
Genocide.
then his
job
job is then his
murder.
job is spy. Then his job
slaughter.
is hunt.
Yeah. His job is like frown.
But his job definitely was beach in the beginning.
This is what happens if Ken goes unchecked. Fortunately, Barbie came back from the real world. There was no time dilation. She was able to save him from himself. But Sparks and Moon, not so lucky.
When he gets back to his summer world, on page 415, they describe his outfit. And it's total Ken. The loose, heavy pants and rainbow shirt that belonged with the beads, dressing as though for a ritual. He's wearing a rainbow t-shirt. Come
Rainbow
on. y'all.
shirt, he's Alan.
Oh, Alan. No, he's definitely Ken.
Just Ken.
He was in his winter Mojo Dojo Casa house.
Shall we to feminist favorite?
Yeah.
Cool. Mine is when Jerusha arrests a slaver and he goes, a woman, a fucking woman, Blue. How the hell do you like that? Busted by a woman. And she goes, and don't you ever forget it, you son of a bitch. She's tough. I like her.
Mine is also a Jerusha moment. And it's when, I already mentioned it. I keep spoiling myself. When the other cops are hassling Jerusha for getting promoted to commander of police just because she's a woman. And then she shoots back, it's better than never getting promoted because I'm a woman. And I laughed because I thought that was a solid comeback.
That was one of mine too. And then
Aw.
I also, I just LOL'd every time they talked about the change because to
Oh, the
those of our
whole
male
planet's
listeners,
about to go
that's
through the
that's
change.
menopause.
Oh my God. Tiamat is about to have its own personal summer.
Oh, gonna get chilly.
Gotta get those heat flashes in there. Hot flashes.
Okay, misogynist moment. I would say I've got one part is lots of, the discussion of Jerusha's career as a woman in law enforcement. That was kind of hard to read. But Joan, like a lot of women that we have read, does not like to talk about, or she does like to talk about women's body sizes. So there are several mentions of chunky bodies and an immense balloon of a woman.
That's
and it's
mine.
just
Immense balloon of a woman.
That was also mine. Immense balloon of a woman.
And then my third one is a fat woman that walked like a dockhand. What does that mean?
Oh, and at one point, she describes the summers as sturdy peasant bodies.
But that
Joan.
seems like, I don't know. I feel like sturdy is just a description. And also,
I think that's shorthand for big.
But I think
me.
that's fine. Like, I don't think that it's insulting to describe someone as fat, but the context is important. Like, fat is just an adjective.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It was the context of the thing. Like, when this came up with Snow Queen was waiting to see who the Summer Queen was, and she was being all bitchy in her head, and she was like some sturdy bodied peasant something. So
Yeah.
it was derisive.
It's just funny because she only seemed to describe like very like one-off characters this way. Like none of the main character women are described as bigger.
No.
Except for we definitely know that both Moon and Arian Rod are slender, live people.
Oh, of course
slender
they are. Of
and
course they are.
slim, always slender and slim.
So live.
But I
All the
think she's a
liveness.
function of her time, internalized misogyny. It's a real thing, y'all. So
I mean, speaking of their small liveness, my boob talk is the small high breasts that win the day yet again.
Also, my boob talk.
Small high breasts.
I had that as well, but there's also one use of boobs, but in the way is like bumbling idiots, like drugged up boobs.
An actual boob.
So I mean, it technically fits the category, even if it's not on
That's
point.
true.
Fantastical food.
Man, this book is light on eating.
Yeah, they don't eat much.
So Jerusha has her ayestas, which I think are just like Nicorette gums. She just like chews them and gets like little buzz.
Yeah.
They mentioned some fisherman's pie, which I would be willing to try.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That's about it.
There's some jerky.
Yeah.
When BK and Moon are being held captive by the winter nomads, they are given some like blue like cough syrup, like Theraflu. And then there was a 12-course dinner, none of which we saw.
Yep.
We just know that Jerusha had to eat all of it. And then there's sea hare that we learn is a staple crop, but we never see anybody eat it.
It's like kelp.
I think it was during that 12-course dinner, so maybe it was Jerusha. Someone eats, quote, a spoonful of melon.
Oh, just
That was her. That's right. That's right.
It's such like a late 70s diet, like a spoonful of melon and 2 cigarettes for breakfast.
Cottage cheese and
Almond
pineapple.
bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the guy next to her has to like make her eat a spoonful of melon.
Yeah.
But poor
she's so full.
Jerusha, to her, in her defense, she is depressed and appetite's the worst thing to go. So
That's true. She's just a working stuff. Soap stuff. I want to say that it would probably be easier to list what's not soap stuff in this book.
Pick a page between the front cover and the back cover.
my favorite one though was when Moon pulled a switcheroo to get into the palace. She pretended to be Arian Rod to get in there, and she pretended to be her own clone basically to get in there. And I felt that was kind of soapy.
Oh yeah, it's like cloneception kind of.
So I have two. I have, after the last slaughter of the Murs on the beach, Moon and Sparks encounter each other, and Sparks knows that Moon is Moon, but Moon doesn't know that it's Sparks because he's wearing the Starbuck mask. And then the other one is that same band of nomadic brigands that captured Gundalinu, they find Moon on the beach and capture her too.
Yep.
And
How
take her
lucky.
to the same little cell, and then they can work together and get away and have some
How perfect.
have some sex, which I actually was really happy for them about.
I was happy for them. I liked how they did
whole thing
that.
went.
Also, it just on the subject of BK slash Gundaruno, or however you pronounce his name,
BZ Gundalinu.
Gundalinu.
But it's BZ, so you can just say BZ.
Yeah, BZ.
Oh, I kept saying BK. It's BZ. Right. Sorry. That's BK is a killer.
BTK is a killer.
Correct. That's right.
I'm here to correct you.
BK is Burger King.
That took a second to make it to my ears. Okay, Burger King Gundalino.
Joan has said that BZ, she meant for him to just sort of be a throwaway character, but like that she fell in love with him, and so she kept writing about him. And so this whole second book that she wrote is about him.
Aww.
And she said that if she knew that and then he shows up again, I think, in the rest of the books. So she said if she had known that she was going to write about him so much, she would have given him a name that was easier to pronounce. Which I appreciated. Thanks, Joan.
She had some multisyllabic names in here.
She sure did. She sure did.
Which is funny because you have like Gundalinu and Aryan Road, and then you have Moon.
Moon. Moon.
Moon. Alrighty. Did you like the book?
I did.
Yes, I have some quibbles, but I liked it.
I think this is my favorite book we've read so far on the pod.
Oh, look at
Wow.
you.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed every line of this book. So
Yeah,
That's nice.
I
I really
was
liked it.
interested in what was happening. I wanted to know how it ended.
she's a good writer.
Like- I liked the world building. Yeah, it was good. And she does have some very choice turn of phrase. So.
Yeah, she just. I dig you, Joan.
I really did like this. I wish that the end had maybe been a little less like everything
Pat.
works out.
Yeah.
Like everything
Yeah.
just falls into place. And I would have
Yeah,
liked for it to be a
agreed.
little more complicated than that. For example, I really wanted Sparks to fall into the sea. But I did really like it. I enjoyed reading it. I didn't find it a chore to read. I could sit down and read like 50 pages in a sitting and not fall asleep too much.
I fell asleep every time I picked this book up
You were sick.
for a while.
Aw.
But it wasn't her fault. It was my fault again.
All right, this is simple, but Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
No, I'm just kidding.
It's Star Wars.
Yeah.
This book has everything. It's got Star Wars. It's got Dune. It's the progenitor of Saitine, a much more boring book.
Yeah, just for the record, here are the reasons it's Star Wars. Hyperspace. Sybil are kind of like Jedi. It's got ships. A capital city that's corrupt and full of tall buildings that starts with a C. An evil leader that has to have an apprentice. Twins.
Mine is a simple peasant on a planet with 2 sons is initiated into an ancient religion that chooses you based on things in your blood, and she must go on to end her secret parents' rule. She meets some nice smugglers, one of which cannot speak the human tongue, and at least one nice robot.
Oh my God.
They're Han and Chewie.
This might be the most Star Wars of any book. It's more Star Wars than Star Wars, I think, honestly.
I can't believe you just
Is
sat
that our
on
Star
that
Wars?
this whole time, Amy.
Damn. Well
I'm
done.
impressed.
So this came between episodes 4 and 5, right?
Yeah, it was 80. So, but she probably wrote it in like 79. But she definitely saw Star Wars in 77, I would argue. So, yeah. But
Yeah. I would be interested to have a conversation with old Joan about whether she saw Star Wars and what she thought.
I'd be interested to know if George Lucas was a fan of the fairy tale The Snow Queen, because it is astonishing how well this book maps onto the fairy tale and onto Star Wars.
It's all the hero's journey. I mean, it's all
yeah, it's Flash
all the hero's
Gordon.
journey.
It's old Kurosawa movies. Yeah, but
It's the
Yeah,
Barbie
I mean,
movie.
it's all Dune's the same. It's all
that is it, guys. We did it.
We did it.
Yay. Good job, Joan.
We recorded old timey like in the days of the pandemic.
That's right.
Yeah. Coming up, we have Carrie for our spooky Halloween episode.
Yay! I'm so excited.
Has anybody read that before?
I read it in, I think, early high school, like freshman in high school. So I don't remember anything. The only thing I remember is the period in the shower.
I am a little worried that it's not going to be spooky enough, but we'll see.
Well, it's more of a psychological
Yeah, that's true.
thing. So
Is it long or short?
it's short-ish. Yeah.
Well,
It's one of his shorter ones, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
It
good,
is.
good.
Let's see.
It's not like it sized or the stand sized.
It is
I'm really-
208 pages. That's basically a
yeah.
novella.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's short.
Yeah.
I am really interested to see how he writes a female main character, because
Yes. Oh,
all of
girl.
the books that I've read
Oh,
so far
girl.
have had male main characters who just do like a lot of ruminating on their own balls and stuff. So I'm just like really looking forward to seeing how this goes.
It's not just any female character. It's like a adolescent female character.
Yeah. I mean, she's like
Yeah.
really in her body at that age. So I'm very interested to hear how this is going to go. How much is he going to write about her thinking about her own breasts?
Oh,
Oh,
God.
so many
Dirty
times,
pillows.
I think.
Her dirty
Her
pillows.
jahoobies.
Her jahoobies.
Oh, man. All right. Anything else?
That's
I think
it.
we covered it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
You go, girl. You go, girl. You go, girl. A hilarious podcast